Hey everyone, welcome to Silver Tide, Part 1. As you can see, I'm in the process of delidding an Intel Core i7-7700K. And I've used the Aquacomputer Dr. Delid about 6 or 7 times now for this. And it is just a breeze with this tool. I mean, it comes off first time, every time. It only takes a couple of minutes. And the gains are incredible. The last one I shipped at 5.2 gigahertz with an 18 degrees Celsius temperature drop at 100% load. So considering the time, the risk involved, I mean, you are avoiding warranty, but the gains are just incredible. This is the best chip I've ever delidded, and it's a lot of fun. And I can't wait to do some overclocking and testing for this system, which you'll see towards the end of the build log. And actually also check out Silver Tide 5.1 gigahertz testing, which is a video that I did on some of the overclocking that we did to this system. I'm now installing the water blocks onto the EVGA GTX 1080 Ti's, and I've been thinking what it is that is the most daunting and difficult for somebody doing this for the first time. For me, it was water block installations, but that was a long time ago when water block installations were a lot more difficult, but it was just the cost of the component that you're dealing with and knowing that even the slightest mistake could lead to killing that component. But I mean, back then we were using soft tube. These days, hardline has to be the biggest challenge. I mean, it's always the thing that gets people really stuck. But what got me thinking about this is what we're going to be doing. Any new system builders that join us here at Singularity Computers are going to be doing their own build logs once they're fully trained. But, you know, then I thought, what a great opportunity it would be. So Sven is actually about to do his first build, and normally training is something that is totally private in a company. You know, it's not something that you share, but I just can't resist. What a great opportunity to get the perspective of somebody who, well, has a massive background with computers, building computers, computer science, but has really never done a lot of liquid cooling. I think it will be a perfect opportunity to share some really hopefully useful information. So that's something you're going to see soon. Now, I definitely don't do many water block installations on memory anymore. I think at some point one of the big YouTubers must have said memory water blocks are pointless, because that is all I ever hear when I install them. And you know, everyone was using them and then just stopped dead, and basically you almost never see them anymore. But for me, it was never about memory cooling. Although obviously that's a little benefit that comes with it that's not really necessary, but it's about aesthetics. It gives you all of that extra surface area facing upwards of the beautiful nickel and plexi and coolant flowing through it. So I think it's totally worth it for aesthetics. And the EK Monarch module adapters are another great addition. Even on their own, they look great. And, you know, particularly the nickel ones that we have for Silver Tide, it's just really going to fit the theme and the color scheme. It's actually quite a difficult installation. The Monarch module adapters are not easy, and that is because the stock coolers are stuck on there with this adhesive TIM, and this is almost all memory. It is going to be quite difficult. It's really hard to remove that TIM. You need to use heat. I suggest 100 degrees and no more, or you might damage the memory. And then just peel it off slowly. Don't try to do it suddenly, otherwise you could just, you know, tear the memory apart. But yeah, it's quite a time-consuming installation because of that, but definitely worth it for the aesthetics. Now, I'm absolutely loving the latest motherboards that are coming out, because we are seeing a lot more liquid cooling features than ever before. I mean, we're seeing more connectivity headers, like temperature sensor headers and pump RPM headers that are specifically for pump RPM readouts. And you know, EK is working with Asus and Gigabyte now to create water blocks specifically for their motherboards. This motherboard in particular, I really like the Asus Maximus IX Formula, because it has the thermal armor, or whatever they're calling it these days, combined with a water block, and then all of these liquid cooling features, temp sensor headers, pump RPM readout, and all of the usual overclocking and diagnostic features that you see on ROG motherboards. My favorite one is the little LEDs that are usually next to the 24-pin header. So all of the components are polled during post, memory, CPU, GPUs, and if there's an issue, it stops on one of those, and you can see the LED and it tells you where the issue is. This saves an immense amount of time, because when you have a problem and the screen is just black, there's no signal, it's quite hard to diagnose. I mean, it takes a lot of diagnostic effort. You have to remove all of those components, test them in different systems, but with that LED, you know exactly where it is right away, and you can just get straight to the root of the problem. So yeah, it's little features like that which are just great. So M.2 slot 1 is actually under the thermal armor. As you saw, I had to remove part of it to install the M.2. And the M.2 for this build is a Samsung 960 EVO 1TB. The customer decided to choose a few components just for the sake of being different. For example, the Kingston HyperX, which is actually a bit low spec at 2400 megahertz, but just instead of doing the usual, Corsair Dominator Platinum. And same with the power supply. Instead of the usual Corsair AX1200i, he's gone for the Seasonic 1000 watt titanium prime, which is a great power supply. The cables are a little bit difficult, the pinouts are a bit all over the place, but it's a great high quality power supply, which you're really going to see this thing pushed to the limits. I'm actually going to add a little clip where we were doing we took the power consumption to the max. I'm actually going to start adding power consumption back into my test results, which I haven't done for, I guess, a couple of years now, but definitely something we should be doing. And quite surprisingly, this system maxed out actually drew 1300 watts with a 1000 watt power supply. Now, I'll show you why later in the build log. So we're doing some mods to this case. First of all, the case is the Phanteks Enthoo Evolv ATX tempered glass. And a lot of people have wondered how I've managed to fit two 360mm radiators into this case, because as I've said a lot of times, a lot of the cases these days are just not properly designed for liquid cooling. I mean, it's just something that we're seeing now. They seem to be more designed for all-in-ones. There's a lot of restrictions. And I mean, it's nothing you can't get around with a few mods, but I'm going to do a separate video showing exactly how I do the mods to this case to fit two 360mm radiators, because there's actually quite a lot involved, and it's not the easiest mods in the world. But they're great mods, it works really well, so yeah, I think it's definitely worthy of a video because a lot of people have asked me about it. But these are the only radiators that will fit. They're the slimmest radiators on the market, at least at this point. They're below 30mm, and they only just fit. If they were 1mm thicker, then it wouldn't actually fit. It would require more modifications. So we have Corsair ML120 fans. I also did a little mod for the Aquaero 6 XT, as you can see, installed on the power supply shroud. Now this is a great position for it. You get full access to the back of it with the tempered glass side panel, full glass all the way across, so you get perfect view there, and you can have temperature readouts and RPM readouts going, or a logo or something like that. It's a great position for it. I highly recommend this mod. And being able to install the Aquaero into a mid-tower like this, I mean, we have high-end components, SLI, extremely powerful cooling system, basically everything that you see in a massive case labs build or a big full tower case. So really these days, there's not much of a need to go any bigger than this for a lot of people. And if I were going to build a system for myself, I would probably do something like this. Now you can see we have the Singularity Computers Protium D5 pump and res combo. And even with the slim radiator at the front, it doesn't fit in the power supply shroud. So this would require some substantial mods to the power supply shroud, repainting it, trying to match it to the other panels, or repainting the entire case, which I'd much prefer. You can't even leave an edge bare with steel. You really shouldn't do that. But thanks to the versatility of these components, we don't have to do that. I'm just going to swap to the DDC, and it's actually a perfect fit. And now you're going to see something that most people probably don't even know is possible, because there are so many things about our components, little secrets that are built in, features that people, that you find along the way after a lot of playing around, multiple builds, experimentation. Because obviously with all of the experience that I've had, there's so many things that I want to do, so many components I want to build, and when I create a component, there is just so much that we can add. And I hope that creating components is something that we can all do together in the future. That's really where this channel is going. It's what I want to do, and it's something you're really going to start to see with Element 6 coming up soon when I do the first build log. But anyway, what I was actually talking about is you can see that I've mounted the pump top directly to the radiator with a backplate. So I've actually direct mounted the pump and res combo without a reservoir mount. Yes, you do need a reservoir mount somewhere up near the top, as you can see halfway up, but I'm going to connect the top of the reservoir to the radiator with fittings, which eliminates the need for a reservoir mount altogether and gives a really clean looking configuration. So just so many possibilities here. We can change the height of the config by using 2 reservoir mounts, or direct mounted to the backplate, it's a fixed height. But yeah, you can see even with the DDC it doesn't fit below the power supply shroud, but I didn't really want to go down there anyway because it means that we need to run tube through the power supply shroud and cut a hole in it. So this works out really well with the DDC pump and res combo. It's actually about 1 millimeter above the power supply shroud. It's a perfect fit.